Hello, everyone. This is Pendy.
And this is Paul, also known as EastX Twitch.
Paul, I have a confession to make.
What's that? You're actually an elderly cabaret dancer?
No, that was another life. I mean, no, that's not it. All those horrible voices I do sometimes, those were actually different versions of my body. I learned to split my body into multiple forms, like Dark King Vern.
I've never met you in person, so I'll take your word for it.
It's true. There's Pirate Pendy. Yar, shiver me timber. Cowboy Pendy. Well, howdy. Giddy up there, little partner. And even Mr. Hanky Pendy. Gosh, Paul, you smell all dye and flowery.
With so many awful voices, I don't know which one to call the worst.
Well, no more. We're coming up on the end of reviewing Dai, so I need to recombine these bodies into my final form for more power.
Not really necessary.
Stand back.
I'm not even in the same state as you.
I have achieved it, my final form of perfection.
Does this make you smarter or more articulate?
Well, no, I don't suppose it does, but the power.
How is that going to make the podcast better as we review these final episodes?
Well, you see, that is to say, I may have not thought this through, but the power.
Oh boy. As Pendy basks in his newfound but useless power, I'll welcome everyone to Alltrades DQ Media Abbey, a Slime Time podcast spinoff where we review various Dragon Quest media, including manga and anime.
We are
currently reviewing the 2020 Dragon Quest The Adventure of Dai anime and the Dragon Quest X tie-in manga Rooming with a Gamer Gal. We'll start with Dai first, so let's trash it up.
Yes, and we're talking about episode 90, Mist and Kill. In our first episode of the week, our heroes in the White Garden are ready to give up because without Pop's Madroa spell, there's no longer any way to defeat Mistfern. The evil Mistfern laments that he didn't take out Pop sooner, as Kilvern had recommended to him in the past. He talks about how he defeated Pop with a forbidden move called the Phoenix Wing Palm Strike. With this revelation, Yunkel starts to suspect Mistfern's true identity. As they discuss this, Kilvern appears and tries to get Mistfern to reveal more about his secret identity. Mistfern then takes a swipe at Kilvern, realizing that the Reaper is not who he appears to be. Avon was masquerading as Kilvern using a morph spell. We also learn that Kilvern is actually an independent agent sent by another force in the underworld to help King Vern wipe out the surface world. If Vern fails to conquer the world, Kilvern is supposed to kill Vern, hence his name. Avon kindly explains how he survived after seemingly having been trapped in Kilvern's pocket dimension. As it turns out, he filled his glove with sand enchanted with Zoom Bloom, attached it to Kilvern, and then used the zip spell to follow him back to the palace. In flashback, Kilvern is surprised that Avon survived the judge's Megante attack, and even Avon doesn't initially realize how he avoided death. Kilvern rips off his own arm and uses it to launch an incinerating inferno attack, a move fueled by his underworld magma-like blood. Avon dashes through the attack though and defeats Kilvern with an Avon Strash. Kilvern is shocked that Avon made it through the fireball, but then a dust cloud begins to fall off of Avon. It seems that the ashes from Hadlar's death have covered Avon and protected him from both the judge's Megante in a previous episode and Kilvern's incinerating inferno attack in this one. Piroro, Kilvern's one-eyed familiar, pleads for Avon to stop Kilvern from burning away, very pathetically, and Avon actually uses one of his sacred feathers to do so. Mistfern then immediately tries to take Avon out again, but Avon warns the Reaper that he has set a trap for him. Kilvern thinks this is a bluff and charges anyway, only to get beheaded. It turns out that Avon has brought one of Kilvern's invisible phantom razors with him from the pocket dimension and used it to kill Kilvern for good. We cut back to Avon telling Mistfern that he's figured out Dark King Vern's true secret. The episode ends with a cut to Dai and Leona as ominous clouds roll in.
Are the clouds just bad weather or something else more devious? We'll see soon. Avon pretending to be Kilvern was unexpected and very on point for his character. They mentioned he used the morph spell that Zaborat used in the past to pretend to be man. I'm not sure if they named it formally back then. I'm not sure off the top of my head. In older translations, it was called Transform, and it first appears in Dragon Quest III. Mages and sages can learn it in that game and copy abilities of other party members in the team. My favorite use of it is by the monster Flotocopier in Dragon Quest IV. It will use morph to randomly turn into the player's party members and use their abilities. It's fun to see your own party members in the battle screen when they do this. In the NES version, they're just larger versions of the on-field character sprites. But in the PS1, DS, and mobile remakes, you get very detailed versions of your characters that you wouldn't see otherwise anywhere else in the game. Related to that spell is the Staff of Change that turns you into random NPCs or monsters. You can have so much fun with it. In Dragon Quest III, you can buy stuff from the village of elves that hate humans and generally freak out other humans when you're in monster form. In Dragon Quest IV, you use it to sneak into Pizarro's castle and get information from other monsters, which is one of my favorite parts of the game. Back to the show, it's a good detail when Yvonne messes up by calling Mistfern by his full name instead of Mist. Not only was Yvonne wrong to do that, but the distinction between the names Mist and Mistfern will become very important later on. Now, does the ash from Hadlar protecting Yvonne from Agante and the incinerating Inferno attack make sense? Sure. Elemental protection is a staple of RPGs and RPG-based anime. Does it make sense that there was enough ash on him this entire time? Maybe not. It's a bit much. Yvonne claims that it basically was Hadlar's spirit that kept it on him. But even then, for the ashes to last long enough for 2 huge attacks is a little bit overkill. Otherwise, this was a fine episode, and it was very interesting to see Kilvern's origin. Also, on a side note, you might think that the names Kilvern or Mistfern may have been a little too on the nose and a little silly, but you have to realize they used the English words for kill and mist in the manga and anime. So unless you knew English, what that might have meant would not be so obvious. You can hear this clearly when you watch the show with subtitles. They aren't using the Japanese words for those 2 terms. And yes, I do know they teach everyone English in Japan, but it's like us learning French and Spanish in the US. Sure, I took French from middle school through high school, but I couldn't tell you what kill and mist is in French these days. More origins of bad guys in the next episode to come.
I've always thought your French was mouve. Well, kill and mist are matar and misterio in Spanish, but I bring that up for no particular reason. Anyway, I don't buy Hyunkel figuring out Mistvern's identity just by Mistvern and King Vern both having a move that involves a phoenix. Do they own the copyright on phoenixes in Dai's world? Come on. It's terrible to see the heroes all feeling so sad at the beginning of this episode. But thankfully, Yvonne enters the scene pretty quickly as Kilvern, and then things pick up in a big way. I'm glad he killed Kilvern, and it's even better that Kilvern would have lived if only he hadn't been so evil. How was Yvonne carrying an invisible blade around in himself, though? Where was it stuck in him? The butt? The junk? Or what?
Prison rules.
Yep, we may never know for sure. Again, Kilvern dying is super sweet, but it's a shame that Yvonne let Piroro, the Jinxter, live. Piroro is a little douche. Jinxters first appeared in Dragon Quest IV, by the way, just in case you're wondering. I like the idea that Hadlar's ghost was watching over Yvonne. Sure, it's weird for ashes to be a magic shield or whatever, but Hadlar's ghost doing 1 or 2 last acts of goodness for Yvonne is lovely to see, so I approve. So on the subject of Yvonne, he got out of the portal dimension and back into the regular dimension in King Vern's palace using Zoom Bloom, which he cast on the sand that he put in his glove, right? I'm glad he didn't get his hand cut off. That's great. But anyway, I wondered, is Zoom Bloom a real spell in Dragon Quest? And it's not exactly, but they have used the word Zoom Bloom before. You see, Dragon Quest V has an item called the Lunar Zoom Bloom. So they made up the word. They might as well use it. It keeps it in trademark or whatever.
Well, that's cool. I didn't even remember that. That's cool. That's good. That's a nice little factoid.
Yeah, I always like looking that kind of stuff up. It's fun. Finally, I hope we find out whom Kilvern originally worked for. Who the heck could be on a similar level to Dark King Vern in the underworld? Nobody we've met so far.
Next is episode 91, Vern's Truth. We continue with Leona and Dai facing ominous dark clouds at Vern's palace. Suddenly, Dark King Vern comes crashing down after having been previously blasted by Dai's double Duorora attack. Vern tells Dai that he has surpassed what he thought he was capable of. He explains that the Staff of Audacity was barely able to protect him from Dai's Duorora, and then the staff shatters into pieces. We then switch to the White Garden, where it's revealed that Miss Vern was really an entity called Mist, protecting and manipulating King Vern's youthful body. Miss Vern seemingly disappears, warping to old King Vern's location. It turns out that in the past, Dark King Vern split his body in 2 and used the secret spell of frozen time to preserve his strength and youth in the body that Mist has been controlling for him. Now the 2 bodies merge, and the true form of Vern appears, with flashy letters proclaiming
The advent of Vern, the true Dark King.
Vern fires off a blast and realizes he might be a little rusty with his powers, but he's good with battling Dai anyway. Cutting back to the White Garden again, Mist reveals that his true form is a conscious mass of dark aura. Mam lunges for an attack, but to no avail, because this form cannot be attacked physically. He envelops Mam and becomes Mist Man, or Dark Mam, as I've seen other places call it. Poor Chu tries to intervene, but is viciously bashed into a nearby wall. Larhart tries to attack, but is easily thwarted as well. Heem, Larhart, and Yvonne regroup, but all get taken out. Yunkel figures out that an Yvonne air strash could possibly work against Mist. Yvonne borrows Larhart's spear and successfully air strashes Dark Mam, separating Mist from Mam. Mist then sneaks up beyond Hyunkel and starts to envelop him. Yvonne lets off another air strash, but it is easily defected. Mist was actually trying to capture Hyunkel the whole time. He had been preparing Hyunkel's body for years as a substitute to take over when King Vern needed his body back. Despite Hyunkel's recent damage, his body would turn Mist into a very powerful being. Next, we see Mist inside Hyunkel's consciousness was attempting to destroy his soul for a complete and permanent takeover of his body.
Man, things would have gone differently if Dai had just killed Dark King Vern right when he showed up at the start of the episode. He was weakened. He was so weak. But no, Dai lets him talk and do the thing with Miss Vern. For shame. Well, we finally get the full shocking origin of Miss Vern here. And it's not that shocking. It's convoluted, sure, but I was hoping for some element of shock, like Miss Vern was made out of King Vern's dead mom or something. Oh well, he's just the young half of King Vern, and they just let the two Verns merge back together. Wow. It's cool how unimpressed him is with Miss Vern, at least. Him's the best.
I guess we couldn't get you were hoping for like a Dark King MILF, basically.
Which is something where it's like, no wonder he doesn't want people to know, but I mean, like, not just for basic strategic reasons, but because it's embarrassing to him or because it shows just how terrible he is.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I mean, the show's aimed at a younger audience, the comic and such, so it's not exactly unbelievable. Anyway, Mom running right up and giving herself to Mist is disappointingly dumb. Yeah, she's right to be mad at him, but couldn't she try to be strategic or wise just this once? She's a lot like, what is it, Avengers Infinity War when Star-Lord runs up to Thanos and ruins the plan.
Just
like,
they
I'm mad, so yeah.
They just let their emotions get the best of them.
Exactly. Like, and you can't do that when you're a hero, and not when the stakes are so great. But her blunder does lead to the creation of Dark Mom, who is honestly very cool looking. We get no time at all with that version of the character, though. You think they'd at least leave her in that form for a full episode? It feels like the transformation is mostly an excuse to create an alternate skin for gacha games and such.
Yeah, you would think so, but like I'm about to complain myself in my review, like they don't even have any like figures of her or anything like that I know of. Though she does appear in some of the little Dai spin-offs. Like I saw her used as a character in the arcade game when I got to play that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I mean, that's sort of like a gacha game, right? Because there's winning the cards and such, the random cards. Yeah, so it's like I could see that. Yes, you get a cool version of Mom for that, and if Tact had gone on longer, maybe they would have brought that version of the character in too, and maybe they still will in Japan. But yeah, you'd think they'd at least capitalize on her if they're gonna make a cool looking one-off appearance like that.
Yeah.
And Larhart sure is willing to sacrifice Mom just to stop Mist. He doesn't seem to realize that Mist could just jump to somebody else if he killed her, and that's what happens. Though Mom doesn't die. Poor Yonko getting grabbed by that lame Mist monster.
You may or may not have noticed that every title I've done for this Alltrades DQ Media Abbey is a playoff of a movie title combined with something related to what we are talking about in the episode. Some are more obvious than others. This is going to be one of my few exceptions because I couldn't resist using the phrase, "This isn't even my final form," which is related to RPG bosses made popular by Pizarro's transformations in Dragon Quest IV. It fits too well here with King Vern. I couldn't resist. In this episode, we say goodbye to dubbed voice actor Paul Dobson as the old King Vern with his elongated vowels. I am King Vern. Unlike the Japanese version, the dub has many voice actors doing multiple parts, like Vincent Tong doing Hyunkel and Yvonne, and Brian Drummond doing Flazard, Hadlar, and others. But here, the Japanese almost do the same thing. Takahito Koyosu voices both Miss Vern and the true form of King Vern. Alex Zahara plays the same two roles in the dub. The newly revealed Mist is performed by Alex Zahara in the dub as well, but in the Japanese version, Mist is played by Toshio Furukawa, most notable for playing Piccolo in Dragon Ball. In a past episode, I mentioned meeting him at a convention, but didn't reveal which character he voiced. I can also expand upon what happened when I met him. It was quite the ordeal. I was on a limited schedule, so I could only go to one day of the con. With that con, you could only get one-day passes at the door. Furukawa was only doing 2 signings for 1 hour each. His first signing was scheduled for when the exhibition hall opened for the day, 1 hour after the con building opened up. The con took place in Raleigh, North Carolina. I think it's called Animazement, 3 hours away from where I live. I knew time was of the essence to be able to get in line in time. I left to drive to the convention at 4 a.m. This got me in line 2 hours before the doors opened. I was the 4th person in line for paying at the door. When the doors opened, I paid for my pass and then got in line about an hour before the signing was supposed to start. People who had pre-ordered the full weekend pass that had already got their badge were able to get in line ahead of me. So now I had about 20 people in front of me But that was okay. There were few enough people that I would be able to meet him with no problem during the 1 hour time frame. When it got closer to the time to meet him, we were shuttled into the area for signatures that had a large stage in the back. What absolutely sucked is that some singer was doing a sound check for his performance later that night. And by sound check, he seemed to be doing every single song he was going to perform. I guess it was more more of a dress rehearsal than a sound check. It came time for Furukawa to do signings, and this loud, bombastic music was playing the entire time. You could barely hear anyone speak. I really wanted to say through his translator how much I appreciated his voice as Mist in Dai. That's why I was not only wearing my Piccolo socks, but a shirt from Dai as well, my Hyuncle shirt that I picked up in Japan, which is very appropriate as we just learned from this episode. But alas, that was not to be. The only positive from this was that in the confusion, I was able to get him to sign 2 items, even though the handlers were strictly limiting him to signing 1 item only per person. I got him to sign my Blu-ray copy of Dragon Ball Superhero, which Piccolo is a big part of. But then I secretly slipped him my copy of Dragon Ball Season 4 that also features Piccolo on the cover. He looked at me quizzically for a second, shrugged his shoulders, and then signed that too. So at least I got something out of not being able to talk to him. Back to the episode, this has one of my favorite characters in all of Dai, Dark Ma'am. I wish there was some kind of figure for her that I could buy, like I was saying before, though I did hear a rumor they might be doing a premium figure for her by Spice Seed. So we'll see if that happens or not. And you know, poor Ma'am is always getting caught in something devious, whether it be monster tentacles, Matter Eve's lechery, or now dark aura tendrils, I guess. I don't know of a better way to describe those. I love the design for her so much, and I love seeing her just absolutely pummel everyone. My only disappointment that she is barely in the episode before Mist gets air strashed out of her. Oh well, it was really fun while it lasted. And the true form of Vern, whoo boy, let me tell you, he's about to wreck some shit. On a side note, before I'm done, Crocodile saying shame on you to Lara Hart was exquisite. Very in line with his character, and it's just funny how he phrased it. Lara Hart, shame on you. Shame on you indeed. It was great.
Wow, that was a very detailed story you gave us. But I'm glad you got your second signature. That is really cool.
Yeah, I got a little sneaky and just he was like, sure, whatever. He didn't care.
Now then, let's look back at episode 92, The Demonic Guard of Heaven and Earth. This episode resumes with Mist's attempt to wipe out Hyuncle's soul and take full control of his body. When Mist tries to attack Hyuncle's soul, however, he gets extinguished by the aura of light that was concentrated there. When Hyuncle realized earlier that Mist could possess a person's body, he began deliberately concentrating light aura there, knowing that he might be the eventual target. Go Hyuncle. Sometime later, Mom recovers and discovers that Pop and Mr. Beast are still alive. Yvonne secretly saved them before using the morph spell to turn into Kilvern. The party then decides to go help Dai, even though they're completely outmatched by Vern. Up on top of the tower, we see that Vern was just waiting for Dai to finish healing. He wants to fight him at full power, baby. Vern has been bored, not being able to take on anyone powerful enough to challenge him. Make sense? He then strikes a defensive stance, which he calls the Demonic Guard of Heaven and Earth. Dai charges up a Giga Strash and charges at Vern super wisely. The Dark King blocks the Strash with a Phoenix Wing, cuts Dai with a Calamitous End, and then blows him away with a Kaiser Phoenix. Ouch! While Dai is passed out on the ground, Vern explains to Leona that Heaven represents his attack, Earth his defense, and Demonic his magical abilities. When Vern puts a hand up to Leona, Dai recovers and tells him to stay away from her. Vern then proposes that he will keep Leona alive if she agrees to serve by his side.
Yeah, I was disappointed by how easily Mist was dispatched. I was hoping we could get some Mist Hyuncle action, with the possessed Hyuncle taking everyone on at the same time that Hyuncle is battling for his soul. Or maybe to avoid repeating what they just did with Ma'am, they could have shown a spiritual form of Hyuncle battling Mist somehow, represented by physical forms. Mist's defeat just seemed really anticlimactic. Before they got to the fight with Dai and Vern, I did really enjoy the camaraderie that everyone displayed as they prepared to take off. I thought him chomping on medicinal herbs was quite comical and entertaining. Loved how they drew that and animated that. And I loved how Chu declared, "I cannot," when asked if he can heal him with any spells. Ma'am's reaction to seeing Pop was still alive was great too. Later in the episode, you can really see how formidable Vern is. His attack and defense are impressive, hence the name of the episode. Not a bad episode overall, but I was hoping there was going to be a little bit more between Hyuncle and Mist.
I agree that Mist's defeat is a letdown. He's been an obnoxious villain for basically the whole series, and he just quietly dies inside a Hyuncle. At least let him be publicly humiliated when he dies. Oh well, at least he's gone. The best part of this episode is when Mom complains that Pop and Brokina were killed by Miss Vern, and everyone looks around awkwardly. Why are they looking like that? Then Mom looks over and sees sees Brokina casually healing Pop. Her eyes bug out when she sees him too. So funny. And Mom then beats up on Pop, which is funny, but wouldn't be very funny if it was happening to me. Chu tells him that those two are always like that. Well, she clearly cares about Pop in some kind of way, but the show has given a lot more hints that Mom and Hyunko will end up together rather than Mom and Pop, so I'm not getting my hopes up there.
Oh yeah, and then going back to everyone giving like the weird reaction to Man before she finds out that they're alive. Just the whistling that Yvonne starts doing, like, oh, do. It was great.
Yes, I love those comedic moments that they squeeze in here and there. Finally, the episode ends with Dai running right into Vern's triple attack like a chump. You can absolutely see that coming before it happens. The writer, the original manga writer, doesn't seem to know how to show the heroes getting hurt without making them act foolish and or impulsive. And that's a shame. Let's hope Dai fares better next time.
And something that I just thought of, the fact that the true King Vern just waits for Dai to heal so that he can fight him at full power. That reminded me of Dragon Ball, where Goku likes to do that a lot. Like, he will like even heal opponents, like he famously did with Cell, where it's like, no, I want to see a full powered battle, like either me against this person or somebody else against this person, to the point where other people on the team are like, Goku, what are you insane? What are you doing? And it kind of reminds me of, I'm guessing this goes back to like a samurai way of thinking, like maybe with the Bushido code, where, you know, they want to have that, like, I'm gonna, you know, beat this person with my own power, and we're gonna have a fair battle and all this and the other thing. And I think that's why there was such a resistance to guns, especially among the samurai at first, because they're like, oh, we're just going to shoot someone from like 100 yards away. No, I want to like get up and see my enemy in the eye and battle him like a true warrior. And I think that's where all that comes from.
You're probably right. Yeah, there's a lot of similarity there. And just recently I watched an episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and there's a thing with Quark, who's a kind of a weakly Ferengi, and he has to do a duel with a Klingon who's bigger and like way more experienced as a warrior and stuff, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And Quark ends up getting out of it because he makes everybody realize this is like just an execution. It's not even fair to do it this way. So yeah, a lot of that honor stuff kind of works that way.
Yeah, because the Klingons have that similar sense of honor in terms of fighting each other. That's right.
Yeah.
Well, next we'll go into rooming with a gamer gal. First up, we have Server 15, first online game. In this chapter, the focus is on Sasuke's friend Mario. It's me, Mario! He is approached by a girl named Shinoda in his class on how to play online games. She wants to play one in particular that is very popular, and Mario thinks it's probably Dragon Quest X. She's a little wary about setting everything up, so Mario proposes to help install it himself at her house. After everything is installed, Mario introduces her to Heaven Slime, and they begin playing together. Mario starts to wonder if she started playing the game to get closer to him, but it turns out that she was actually trying to get closer to her cousin's older brother, and he actually plays a different online game. Despite this, Shinoda likes the game so much that she continues to play with Mario and Heaven Slime, because yay, Dragon Quest.
There you go. And yeah, it's good for us to remember that Mario is one of the members of Heaven Slime, whom Satsuki previously met at that get-together they had a few chapters back.
Yeah, if I remember right, he thought Mario might have been another female, but he was actually plays a female in the game, but is a male in real life.
Yeah, that was pretty amusing. So here, the opening picture of the puppets in the water is undeniably cute. This chapter is fairly unique since it focuses on someone besides the two leads for once. I guess they needed things to happen to Mario-kun since Satsuki is too socially awkward for this particular story to happen to him. I like that he helps get Shinoda into gaming too. It's very kind of him to go to all that trouble for her. The punchline of the chapter has Shinoda's character, Danone, that's probably how you say that, ask Mario if he'll run a labyrinth with her, and then Mario thinks, I really am oblivious. It's supposed to be funny that he thinks that, but I didn't see the humor in it. Maybe it's a Japanese thing.
Yeah, I was kind of confused by that too. Like at first, the whole oblivious thing made sense in the beginning, but then at the very end of it, I was like, I don't know what you're getting at here.
Yeah, exactly. It doesn't really apply to that particular situation.
No.
Whatever. On the plus side, it seems like the two of them will continue to be Dragon Quest buddies. Spending time on Mario and Shinoda here makes more sense if they play a continuing role in the series, so we'll have to see if they pop up again soon. Also, art-wise, Mario and Shinoda have inhumanly long forearms and torsos, just like the main characters. Yep, that's the artist's style, all right.
It's very true. In the intro, we learned that in Dragon Quest X, you can actually go for or swim in the ocean, like Paul was talking about. And I didn't know about that in the game. I didn't know you could do that. We see a picture of poppets hanging around on inner tubes, and I think it's nice that swimming is one of the many casual activities you can do in the game. It's interesting that they did a side story on Mario. I wonder if this will continue in the future with other side characters. I thought this chapter was a cute story, though Mario stating that Shinoda is well put together seemed a little creepy to me, even though they are both in college. Also, was she trying to date her older cousin? I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too much into that. Anyway, I also loved Shinoda getting all serious and taking notes on Mario's recommendations. That was cute. It was just adorable. Maybe we'll see more of Shinoda in the future? I hope so.
That's a good question about trying to date her cousin, but I think she was trying to date her cousin's brother. So basically, that's like a great uncle, I think. Anyway, in Server 16, 7 Mysteries, the chapter begins with Satsuki's character, Hao, waiting on the beach for something to happen, but we're not sure what. We cut to Miyako returning home and looking for Satsuki. She finds him, but he's already asleep. Did she get home super late? No. It turns out that Satsuki is sleeping at odd hours, so that he can look for one of the 7 mysteries of Dragon Quest X. They are mysterious figures or objects that randomly appear at certain times and locations. If a player can take pictures of all 7 mysteries, he or she will get a special emote manual, whatever that is. Satsuki
we talked about that in the one of the previous episodes. Emote manual will get you a special emote reaction thing that a character can do. So like you get a special emote manual that can do like a little dance, or their face can do a different expression or something like that.
Oh yeah, but wouldn't it make more sense to just say it gets you a special emote? But I guess it's because it's an item that you have to activate, probably.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Well, Satsuki has never been able to see one of these mysteries, so he's determined to do it now. Miyako advises Satsuki that turning around his life like this is not healthy for him. She comes up with a plan for him to track down the mysteries at regular times during the next month, and she'll join him on this quest. Satsuki agrees, and they spend the next 30 days looking for the 7 mysteries without luck. Satsuki feels frustrated at first, but he and Miyako realize that the time they spent together was still worth it.
This was a fun bonding episode between Satsuki and Miyako using the game. The 7 mysteries quest really sounds cool. It's a genuine activity in the game. I wasn't able to look up all the mysteries names specifically, but I did see pictures of them. As mentioned in the manga, 2 of the mysteries are the Ghost Train and Yuki Onna. Yuki Onna is a figure that shows up in Japanese folklore tales. There are many variations in the folklore, but she's basically a snowy ghost woman. From the pictures that I saw, there's a bright circular light UFO that appears in the night sky, a city in the clouds that will appear over the ocean before a storm clears, a huge giant that will appear during a sandstorm, a creepy puppet-like doll that will appear on a certain rock, and my favorite of the bunch, the Loch Ness monster swimming in a lake. I only hope that he doesn't ask you for Tree Fitty. So scary. I put a link in the show notes to a Reddit post that shows all the pictures. When Miyako responds to Satsuki with the what, W-O-T, all I could think of was the you what mate meme. Overall, another fun chapter learning about Dragon Quest X and seeing Satsuki and Miyako bond more with each other.
It turns out that the real mystery was the friends we made along the way.
Aww.
That's the theme of the chapter anyway. It is funny that Miyako has seen 2 of the mysteries even though she doesn't care much about them, whereas poor Satsuki can't even succeed at witnessing one. Miyako is a good friend for encouraging Satsuki to stay on a proper sleep schedule and for offering to help him look for the mysteries. I think the mysteries would be cool to witness by chance, but sitting around for hours without being able to see them would be both frustrating and boring. Oh, this chapter also brings up the concept of running into people you don't know who are doing the same thing as you in an MMO. That really does happen. You start to recognize other players even though you have no occasion to talk to them. Just like, oh, there's that guy again. By the way, the chapter ends with a strangely translated line of dialogue. Perhaps it was because those moments were spent together with Goro-san, is what Powder thought to themselves. I forget if Powder is a boy or a girl, but if the translator wanted to use a gender-neutral pronoun, it would make more sense to say themselves. Themselves explicitly sounds plural, but the line is only talking about Powder's thought, not someone else's. Let's do better, uncredited translator.
I'm not surprised you picked up on that, being a teacher yourself.
Right on.
To change the subject, in my trips to Japan, I've noticed that various anime series will sometimes get their own lines of cologne and or perfume.
Neat. I hear that Dai continues that tradition, as they put out an entire line of fragrances to promote the new anime when it debuted.
There's a fragrance for Dai, Mam, Baran, Gomi-chan, Pop, Leona, Hyunkel, Yvonne, and even Crocodile.
When you want to smell your Beast King best. I approve.
Do you think I'll be able to unleash the power of the Dragon Knight if I go with the Dai or the Baron cologne?
You probably not. I think your Doro Aura days are over, Gramps.
Damn. I do think the Gomichan fragrance is adorable, though. I might actually have to pick up one of those.
I'm glad they didn't do a fragrance for wrinkly old Zabuera.
Well, that would probably be poisonous and just downright kill you.
Or can you imagine a fragrance for Flazard?
Fire and ice in one bottle. Oh my. Also some of the descriptions for these are fantastic. We'll read you a couple.
Avon's scent says, this fragrance is inspired by Avon, who teaches his disciples the art of swordsmanship and magic, as well as a sense of justice. The fresh, soft, yet solid scent of mandarin and pear spreads, evoking the image of Avon, who is calm and has a strong sense of justice. Over time, it changes to the scent of rose and black tea, giving the scent of a calm and gentle Avon.
This fragrance is inspired by Crocodile, the former commander of the Dark Army. The top notes are strongly cinnamon, the middle notes are vanilla and sweet cocoa, and the last notes are musk and sandalwood, evoking Crocodile, a warrior who does not approve of cowardly tactics.
Delicious. Those are some powerful descriptions indeed. If you want to check the Dai fragrances out for yourself, we have a link to the official website in the show notes. And with that, we wrap up this episode of Alltrades DQ Media Abbey. If you want to prepare for our next episode, be sure to watch episodes 93 to 95 of Dragon Quest: The Adventure of Dai and read chapters 17 and 18 of Rooming with the Gamer Gal. You can watch the Dai episodes subtitled on Crunchyroll or dubbed on Hulu. And Rooming with the Gamer Gal is available through the Manga Up app.
We're a non-profit podcast. We won't Kaiser Phoenix your hard-earned gold when we can offer you quality content for free. But if you do have some extra gold that's just completely burning a hole in your wallet, pouch, bottomless bag, or treasure chest, and you would like to donate anything to a website that's been supporting Dragon Quest fans for over 25 years, stop by the Dragon's Den by clicking the link in the show notes. There are several ways to support the Den, including the affiliate links that don't cost you anything extra when making other Dragon Quest purchases. Get those pre-orders for Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D Remake in, everyone.
We even have a Slime Time t-shirt that was designed by our resident artist, Dwayne. See the link for it in the show notes.
As part of the Slime Time Extended Universe, or STU, you can direct comments or questions for the podcast on X and Instagram at DQ Slime Time.
And you can follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/EastX Twitch. Come watch me play a variety of games every Saturday, kids.
Join in tons of Dragon Quest discussion at the Dragon's Den forums and Discord and the Dragon Questers and Slime Time Facebook groups.
We'd like to thank everyone that made this podcast possible, including Pendy, Woodus, the Dragon's Den, and Capcom, who finally pulled their heads out of their butts and agreed to release their upcoming fighting game collections on Xbox. Took them long enough.
Yay! Please like, subscribe, and write a review for the podcast.
We'll catch you later, everybody. Don't hate, appreciate.
Time to zoom on out of here.
When you go off alone, sometimes all a friend can do is wait and watch for you to come back home. Hey, tell me where you're going when you go off alone. Oh, this was a story based on honesty and courage from the start. We're together, I thought we could make it work. On the horizon, something shining, and everyone can see it, and I'm feeling confident.
This is slime time! General Placard here! Beware my five-finger flares!